So welcome everyone. I have you on gallery view right now. I can see a lot of faces, and thank you for joining us. It's my intention with these conversations, like the one we had last Sunday with Vanadis Sensei, to just to provide a way of getting together and sharing our common path, and I'm inviting. I've invited Jan Nevelius Sensei to join us today, my very dear friend in the Aikido world, a Swedish Aikido teacher, and he is the co-chief instructor of Vanadis Aikido Dojo in Stockholm, Sweden. I wanted to just first of all say welcome Yan Sensei, and then I'll give you a little more intro about how we met. So hello, Yan Sensei, are you there? Okay. Yan Sensei, I think you need to unmute. There you go.
Okay, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Linda Sensei.
Lovely to see you in Sweden. I can see you're at your house, and which I have stayed in many times. Um, So I wanted just to let people know, and also just to enjoy saying with you, Jan Sensei, we've known each other about a dozen years and have a very wonderful Aikido friendship. And we met in 2008. Before then, I just want to mention about Jan Sensei that not only is he the chief instructor of Vanadis Aikidoklubb, but he actually has been practicing Aikido since he was 11 years old in 1975. And also, so started Aikido in Sweden with Ichimura Sensei and various others. And then got so excited about Aikido that he went in 1983 and spent several years living in Japan and studying with the teachers, the wonderful teachers at Hombu Dojo, who were direct students of O Sensei, especially Yamaguchi Sensei and Osawa Sensei and Endo Sensei, and then after several years in Japan, came back to Sweden and began to teach. So it's been a beautiful, long Aikido history, and one that Yan Sensei and I actually share a lot in common about, since I started Aikido as also, well, not as a that young, but when I was 18 and went to Japan in the 70s and lived there for several years. So we have a lot in common in our Aikido path. But anyway, Yan Sensei teaches, around the world, as many of you know, and is a fantastic Aikidoist. So in terms of how our friendship started, it was in 2008 when I started going to Europe. Hadn't done that before, and I was on a trip with my son there. And someone suggested that I go to Sweden and meet Jan Nevelius Sensei. And so I did, and he was very kind and welcoming and invited me to teach in his dojo. And when I met Jan Sensei, I just felt so much in common right from the beginning. And everything we said and talked about, our dojos and the approach to Aikido, I thought, oh, well, that's the same. And so we started a friendship, and we started an exchange. So I invited him to my dojo in California, and then he invited me back to his dojo in Sweden. He also really opened doors for me in Sweden. So I've really enjoyed that, developing that sense of the world family, being part of the family in Sweden. And we've done these exchanges, international friendship exchanges, all the years since then, every year. And so Jan Sensei, just wanted to turn it over to you for a minute and just say, how do you remember that beginning and your feeling about what we've been doing in the years since then?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Linda Sensei, for inviting me to this, and it's a real pleasure to be here. And I have a very similar feeling that from the beginning we bonded very strongly, and I even thought you were Swedish, because you have some kind of Swedish aura around you, and that made it even easier to connect to you. but I think we have had many similar experiences, and so that made it very easy to connect. And I have learned a lot from you, Linda Sensei. So I hope I have contributed something to you. But the exchange has been very rich from my side, and you have brought pieces of Aikido that I have been missing from my lineage. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you very much, Linda Sensei.
Well, the feeling is mutual. It's really been a productive exchange and such a pleasant one. And also, one of the things I love sharing about this is just the truth, you know, that how we work together in Aikido and how we can work together, you know, easily with mutual respect and friendship, you know, and that's a great, I think, model for not only Aikido but really what we need, you know, now is that sense of positive connection and working together with other people, you know, to meet the moment that we're in. Um, Also, I just want to mention, Jan Sensei said, you know, I thought you were Swedish. Well, in fact, my ancestors are Swedish, or many of them are. And it was through Jan Sensei and is getting to know him that I was able to reconnect with my Swedish roots. And it's been extremely meaningful for me, just a deeply moving experience as an American to reconnect with my roots in Sweden. So, well, I wanted to uh, just go a little bit more into the sense of the kind of shared experience that we've had with the kind of lineage. I mean, you used the word lineage, and we're all in kind of the big lineage of Aikido that comes from O Sensei, right? We're in all sorts of, and then there are these branching, you know, lineages like the different people who studied with O Sensei, and then were so inspired by O Sensei, and then went out and started and transmitted and started organizations and dojos and so on all over the world. Um, and so, you know, you and I, Jan Sensei, were both people who actually were inspired to go to Japan and live there for several years and have the experience of kind of being in the country of origin of Aikido, Japan, and studying in a Japanese environment, and then coming back to the West, and out of our own sort of inspiration and sense of, I mean, a sense of responsibility, really, started to teach, and uh, and so that's quite a process, you know, since Aikido kind of came out of Japan and then has, you know, gone into the West, and we need a cross-cultural perspective in Aikido, right? And so I'm just wondering what you might say, Jan Sensei, about how how Aikido is coming into the West and the sense of development here and the creativity that we are using and needing, as well as staying connected to the roots of Aikido. So, what are you thinking about, experiencing about that?
Well, first of all, I want to say I think somehow we were really lucky to come to Japan when there were still so many of the original students of Sensei alive. I mean, some of them just transmitted the things with their bodies. Some people were more better in talking and expressing things. But I found that meeting so many of the students who actually trained with Sensei was very, very important for me. And then I, I feel I have a part of me is somehow Japanese. You know, there is something deep in me that connects so strongly to the Japanese culture. But still, I'm Swedish, of course. So I'm always swinging between the roads of Aikido, and then I'm Swedish, and I have to move into my culture, and I also want to move into the future. So without losing the heritage, the ground, or the roots of Aikido, I still want to move, see where we can go with Aikido. Because I have some feeling that it was also Osensei's intention that we should explore Aikido and still respect the roots, but we should explore Aikido. And I think what's happening today is that cultures can enrich each other. And what came through the Japanese culture in Aikido can now be enriched by other cultures in the rest of the world. And I think this can be a fantastic process of exploring the possibilities of Aikido.
Yes, I really feel that too, and I feel there's sort of a creative tension sometimes, between the Japanese roots and then the Western, you could say, innovation or development or creativity. And I'm always feeling, I guess, since I did train in Japan and have had a long, kept this connection, and through my long connection with my teachers, my Japanese teachers, especially, of course, Ano Sensei, who's my personal teacher, I have a sense of, really wanting to keep the roots strong, so that we maintain, and we're continually fed by the inspiration of O Sensei, the founder of Aikido. It's such an incredibly inspiring figure and philosophy and model, for us. Uh, and then people like you and me and most of the people on this call, I mean, here we are, in the West. We're not Japanese. So I often feel like in the dojo, we have the opportunity to try to blend elements of the Japanese origins and the good things, that the Japanese training brings to us and brought to me and to you, to blend it together, in the dojo. It sort of a constant exploration, really. But for instance, in my dojo, or when my dojo is actually shut right now, but like many dojos, but in my dojo, you walk in and there's a kind of a feeling about it that is reminiscent of a Japanese dojo, in the sense of, you're walking in, there's a sense of respect for the space, and there's an expectation and a culture of um, self-reflection, self-discipline, really going deep and having a certain mm, quiet, certain quietness, in order to perceive and to receive. And also, when people start coming into the dojo, um, you cannot miss the kind of warm and lively and very Western, you know, um, feeling of the people and the interactions of the people coming into it. That's just one example, but I really love the combination.
Mm. I, I something I got with me from Japan, I think, was I feel the Japanese have a very natural way to talk about spirituality.
Mm.
It's also in the language, in their everyday talking. There are spiritual words in their language, and it's not so rigid. It's quite, they use it quite easy, and that really attracted me to have the the spirituality so present in daily life, and it was very approachable in a way. Of course, it could be very unapproachable too. It could be very difficult if you want to go into some deep tradition, but even in the daily life in Japan, I felt that there was a spirituality present. And I think something that the Japanese are very good at is to frame the invisible, to create frames for things that we don't see. Like the dojo, the space of the dojo, it's just an empty room. But there is a frame around it. And when we walk into the dojo, we walk into that frame, and there are some things in that frame that help us experience something. And I think the Japanese are very skillful in that, creating frames around things that are difficult to express.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so these are some of the things I got with me from the Japanese culture, and I want to really keep, to cultivate these qualities.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, I feel that too. And there's a kind of expectation, cultural expectation, that the teaching and the experiences are not just obvious from the beginning, that there's something that you experience and that you come to understand through your own experience. And there's a kind of implied or modeled teaching rather than something being just said or explained always. And so I really appreciate that. And I think that's a beautiful thing in the Aikido practice, that we can explain things, but like you're saying, there's also the invisible, there's a kind of mystery and inner experience to things that isn't just said, in words. And the other thing, another thing I was thinking that I really appreciate and that has helped me in my life so much and continues to during this time of the coronavirus, shutdowns and so on, is the concept of Shugyo, of practice, of intense practice that you put everything into, and that practice is not always easy, or maybe it always involves some kind of effort and persistence. And this is, of course, not just a Japanese concept. And yet, when I was in Japan and training there, I was very moved and changed by encountering the cultural frame of kind of working hard at something, and that this is a spiritual practice with some an arduous aspect to it. So in other words, when things get hard, that doesn't mean it's not working. When things are hard, that's when you're practicing. And so things have been kind of hard recently. Has anybody noticed? With things are as they are in the world, and the dojo shut and so on. And so I found myself almost immediately kind of going to this, drawing upon my sense of Shugyo, like, okay, things are hard, and this is our practice, rather than things are hard so I can't practice. It's like, no, this is the practice. So I felt like I got that strongly from the Japanese training.
This connects, it's very close to that concept, and this is the purification concept, that we are, through this hard practice, hard effort, we purify our mind. And you could talk about it in a very spiritual way, or in a very simple way. You come to the dojo and you feel disturbed by all these thoughts and feelings, and you go and you train and you concentrate, and then you come out and you feel much better. You can express it very simple in a way, that we clean our mind from all negative thoughts. And I think that is so important today, because if we get disturbed by all the negative thoughts, we cannot be creative. We cannot help other people. And we cannot do good things. So purifying, cleaning the mind all the time. Of course, we have to be aware of the difficult things, but if we think about them too much, we lose our power to change the world. So we have to constantly purify our mind and clean our mind. And that's the dojo training really helps with that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And of course, Sensei always said Aikido is misogi, purification. Aikido is purification of body and mind. And it just, I love the way Aikido works on all these levels together, and that it is, like you say, you could think of it in a very esoteric way, and it's very simple. It's right now, and we experience it. And I've noticed that in the the Zoom training and classes that we've been doing, and I plunged into right at the beginning of the shutdown. It's of course really, it's different. We can't touch each other, and yet there's something there when we do our practice together in this environment, this new environment. We still experience that effect of the training and the purification, and that it helps us. It's really grounded that way. It helps us get through our days, and helps us to be creative and be able to make a contribution, like you said. I wanted to also I was thinking about different things, that we have in common. And well, I guess this is along the lines of what we've been talking about, but we've both sustained over quite a long period of time, decades, close teacher-student relationships with Japanese shihan, people who studied with Sensei, you know, you in particular with Endo Sensei, and me in particular with Ano Sensei. And I was thinking about, you know, that process of, I don't know, I might call it transmission or something, you know, something that we attempt to, you know, receive directly, you know, from our teachers, um, and how you might express that. Like I was thinking about, well, it's not just Ano Sensei, but he's the one I've been closest to, and how I feel like I feel like I kind of absorbed, and I'm so grateful for this sense of lifelong training, like a lifelong commitment to training. And I mean, he just, let's talk about Ano Sensei right now. He really modeled that for me and still does at the age of 89, doing what he can, you know, to practice and still being inspired by O Sensei. I felt like I just sort of caught that, and I'm so grateful for it. Um, and also just the feeling, you know, in practice, like a certain feeling of that direct connection, a certain kind of key, and the need for me as a student, not just that I had to, but that I wanted to really open myself, you know, to receive, because what this person was modeling was just felt so profound and beautiful. At any rate, do you have anything to say about like that process of the teacher-student relationship with
I
with
can
your,
I can easily relate to what you say, and I think for me, I mean, Endo Sensei has been a great inspiration for so many years, and something I've really learned from him is to never stop researching. I mean, he's continuing to explore and develop. Every time I see him, he's working on something new. There's a new angle, a new vision, or something, and this is incredibly inspiring. And also, I think somehow maybe in the West we have this concept of being free. You know, it's some kind of goal. We have to become free, and I don't know what freedom really is, and freedom from what, because staying in a long time relationship like that and exploring yourself in connection to something like this, it could be called not being free, but somehow I explore great freedom inside, researching the freedom in relationship to my teacher. And if I would not have my teacher, I don't know where my reference point is. So finding your own way, your own freedom, and still be connected to your teacher or your students or whatever is incredibly rich, I think.
mm-hmm. And it helps to have a teacher who actually gives you freedom too. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of teachers, and I feel that with for me with Ano Sensei, he's not like controlling me. He's inspiring me. You know, so I'm feel totally free to explore different things, and that it's really helpful that way too. I was thinking too, that something in terms of this lifelong commitment to exploring Aikido and to exploring O Sensei's way. You know, my teachers really have really modeled for me that it's not just in the dojo, that it's more of a way of life, a way of experiencing things, and that Aikido is a way and not just a place, and not just a series of techniques. It's something very large and profound. Uh, and I think that's also really helping me during this time. And I think helping others, this concept of that even if our dojos are closed, we still have access to Aikido and to our Aikido practice. The other thing I want to say, just my own experience of having a positive teacher-student relationship, is that there's a certain humility to that I feel like is very refreshing. That it's not just about what I know and what I think and what I want, but what I hope to open myself to and what I hope to continue to learn and deepen. Um, so that's
I, I have this vision of, you know, we are pieces of a chain,
mm,
and because you have a teacher, you realize that and you have students, you're a piece of this chain, but you're just a piece of it. So
Mhm.
we're transmitting things through this chain. But to have a teacher for a long time makes you really humble and think that you're just a part of this transition. I think it could be easy otherwise to, you know, grow your head a little bit too big sometimes. I don't say it has to happen, but it's easy. It happens that if you don't have a teacher, you start to think too much about yourself. And I really feel that I'm a servant in Aikido. I'm serving my teacher, but I'm serving my students, and this is what is important. And by being a servant, I receive great gifts. But then it becomes less important about me and what I'm doing, because my goal is to serve Aikido and to serve my teacher and to serve my students.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just want to quote O Sensei for a moment. This is a very famous quote, and I just love it. He says, "Understand Aikido first as Budo, and then as the way of service to construct the world family." First as Budo, and then as the way of service to construct the world family. And the way I interpret that, I mean, you could interpret it various ways. I think first as Budo means train. It's not just an idea, like we train in Budo, in Aikido. And then as the way of service, yeah, it's like we want to be making a contribution in some way and in a humble way, and constructing the world family. That's so central to O Sensei's philosophy and to what we experience in Aikido, that sense of connection and working together and trying to bring people together. So um, anyway, I'm going to I think we're going to pause in just a moment here and then go into the question and answer a period to bring in some other voices. But I did just want to mention the world family, because that's also something that you and I have really shared and bonded with. Not only are we in the world family, and our own friendship has really helped to bring people together, but we also share the experience of traveling into different places in the world family and doing what we can to share Aikido and to do it in different cultures, and do it in a respectful way, in a way that brings people together. I know you have been like all over the place, and I've been a few places, and it is such a joy and a challenge and a joy to do that, to not only think, oh, the world family, but actually to go to different places and connect with people in the world family through Aikido. Mm.
I just want to give a short story, because I was twice in Guinea Conakry, which is on the west coast of Africa, because my ex-girlfriend, she was African dance teacher. So I was there a couple of times, and I was teaching a little bit of Aikido on the beach. And this was really in the countryside. And I was astonished how the people who I trained with, or we shared some movements, I could say, they were so happy when they lost their balance, and that made a great impression on me. I thought that, oh, many people in Sweden, when they lose their balance, they come to the beginner course. When you lose your balance, you become afraid. Oh, I'm losing my balance. But the people I met there, they just laughed with joy when they were tumbling around. And I thought, there's so much to learn from different cultures. We can be safe in many different ways, but the people I met there, they were very safe in their physical body. We made me a great impression. And I thought, we different cultures develop different qualities. And it's wonderful to travel around and see and feel these different qualities from different cultures and different countries.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm thinking of all sorts of things, like when I was teaching in Finland and experienced there was a kind of non-speaking quality, in the Finnish culture, where I was kind of expecting more of a conversational exchange, and I'd say, "So, what do you think about this? And there would be like nothing. And I remember at the beginning of one class when, and they were wonderful people. We had a great practice together, but I remember one of them who knew me a little bit better, he leaned forward. He was sitting in the line, and I'm like, so what do you think about this? And he said, we Finns, we don't speak like this. I mean, he was trying to clue me in, and then we spoke later in different situations, but that one was not one. And then also, you mentioned visiting Africa. I feel so. I was so moved to have the opportunity 3 years ago to go to Ethiopia with uh, a group of people, including Tesfaye Tekelu, who was who really founded a lot of the Aikido in Ethiopia, and we and Richard Strozzi Heckler Sensei, and we went in a group to support the first East African Aikido seminar, and to bring together Western teachers and the new Ethiopian teachers, and it was just an amazing, very moving experience of coming together and learning from each other. Not like we're going to teach you Aikido, but we were all learning together. And actually, it was a beautiful structure that was set up. There were Ethiopian tribal elders that came and explained to us about their traditional methods of conflict resolution in their tribes. And so, anyway, this sense of kind of like you were saying earlier, this sort of constant exploration and development in the cultural exchange is also a really, really beautiful thing. And I noticed too the difference in the relationship to ukemi. Yeah. So you know what? We need to open this up. We want to hear from other people.
Yan Sensei and Linda Sensei, you both spoke eloquently about the benefits of having a long-term relationship with an inspiring teacher. And Yan Sensei, you spoke about the way that knowing Linda Sensei has enriched and filled in some gaps for you in your practice of Aikido. So I'm interested in the enrichment of the exchange of both of you as peers. Yan Sensei, what you learned from Linda Sensei, and Linda Sensei, what you learned from Yan Sensei.
So, I mean, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So for me specifically, it's, really deepen the connection with the roots of Aikido and bringing all sensei alive, This is, I think, the most profound things I've received from Linda Sensei is to make the roots of Aikido alive, and how we can feel all sensei's message in our training, in our daily training. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
Well, it's a big question, and maybe a little hard to articulate. But Yan Sensei has just brought for me, well, on the one hand, such an international perspective to my Aikido practice with his tremendous connections around the world, and the Europeanness and Scandinavianness of Yan Sensei has just kind of opened up those worlds for me in Aikido, and also just in terms of how he teaches, the quality of the way he teaches, and the kind of deep, I would say, peacefulness and relaxation and fluidity and softness, and the kind of deep, like there's a depth, a deep power, but expressed in this very peaceful and calm and way, has been really not only I'm learning a lot from it, but also really inspiring. And then of course, so what Yan Sensei we have a lot in common, and then we have the richness of our personal lineage that we bring to the common space that we learn from, and so all of the lineage from Endo Sensei, who's, for instance, I haven't studied with Endo Sensei at all, not personally, then I feel like I'm really benefiting from all the study that Yan Sensei has done with the this incredible sort of fluidity and creativity, and in a slightly different way than my teachers. So I'm not only learning from Yan Sensei, I'm learning from his teachers through interacting with him.
It's of course the same for me. I'm receiving from Anno Sensei and Hikisuchi Sensei through Linda Sensei. But I also want to add something. Linda Sensei has such a wonderful way with words. And of course, English is not my native language. So I'm stumbling around with English. But over the years, being with Linda Sensei, I've tried to pick up a little bit of her gracefulness of expressing Aikido and the community feeling with her words, and that's a fantastic quality I really admire.
Wow, thanks. So Penny Sensei, do you have is anybody raising their hand to
There's
ask?
only one person. I want to encourage other people that if they have a question to raise their hand, but I'm going to call on the one person who has her hand raised, and that's Abby Young.
Jan Sensei, I was wondering what drew you to Aikido at age 11? You must have had something very powerful attracting you, and you were in a situation. How did you find it, and what were your feelings when you were 11 and first saw it?
Well, it was my mother. She thought I needed more friends, It's kind of a funny story because I wasn't really fond of soccer, football, or ice hockey or other sports because I didn't like competition. I never liked competition. I like to train hard, but I was never into competition. So finally there was an opening. There was a week in Sweden. We have this sports week where you can go and try different things. So my mother brought me and my sister to try Aikido and Judo. And I was stuck, and I trained Judo for 2 years, but then my Judo teacher wanted me to compete, and then I stopped Judo. But I always continued with Aikido, and I think even from very young age, when I saw that picture of all Sensei, I was really attached to that, and to the movements and everything. And I just liked to train really hard with other people and not have to compete with other people. That was a blessing to me at that age. So that was my first strong impression that, it was like coming home in a way. And I never left Aikido after that.
Lucky.
Sorry.
No, we're so lucky for that.
Josie, can you unmute Fernando? He has his hand raised. Yeah.
Fernando.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Jan Nevelius Sensei. I had a great opportunity last year to attend the seminar between both you, Jan Nevelius, and Linda Sensei, teachers in Santa Cruz. It was a great opportunity. I like it very much. And now with the COVID, we had the social distance. We have many problems, but we have also very positive things with the COVID as this opportunity to participate in the conversation with both of you. So, and I'm attending many Linda Sensei classes actually because of the COVID, and I like to know, Jan Nevelius, what are the positive points that you can see with the online classes? Many people don't like, but there are many positive things, and I wonder if you share the positive things the online classes can bring to us.
Well, thank you for the question. Yes,
Can I
please.
just mention that Fernando is in Brazil?
Oh, wow. Oh, Greetings to Brazil.
Thank you.
So, so first of all, it was not my choice to teach online, I have to say. And I think Linda Sensei feels the same. So it's a new learning, but I'm amazed on how much connections I have made during this time. I've met people online that I would never meet otherwise. And I've had the possibility to share things with people I normally can never share. So I have made so many connections sitting in my home, isolated. So that's a very positive effect, which I didn't choose it, but it happened. And the other part for me personally, I started to think a lot about where does the movement start? Because in Aikido, it's even though we are not competing or so, we're still somehow goal orientated. I mean, we want to throw somebody or we want to pin somebody. You know, it's somehow in the movement, pattern of movement. Now there's nobody there to pin and nobody there to throw. So instead of looking where is the movement going, I start to look, where does it come from? Where does it start? So I started to look inside myself, and I did a lot of qigong and other things. And so where does Irminage start inside me? Where does Shihonage start inside me? Instead of thinking, where does Irminage go? You know? So where does it start? And can I start Irminage in a deeper place in myself? Can I start Ikkyo in a deeper place in myself? Because there's nobody there to do Ikkyo on. So why don't I research the other direction? What's the origin of the movement? So I've been feeling and thinking about movements and see where do they actually start inside me or inside the meeting or what is happening. So that's something I got from this crisis. There are positive things, I mean, in it. I think I feel like that. I
Let
don't know
me,
what Linda Sensei says.
yeah, I'll add a couple of things here. And first of all, you know, there's this sense, like I mentioned before, there's a sense of shugyo, like, well, this is the practice that's available, you know, and so we sort of like we must practice, and so let's find out how we can practice. As so there's the online practices, but also the solo practice, and that's something I felt right away. Is like, okay, I can't go to my dojo, but there's practice within me, and even also just doing like the movement practice and weapons practices and breathing practices just by myself entirely. And then the online connection, there's a kind of a there are unexpected gifts to this very unlikely medium for Aikido practice. And first of all, there's a kind of intimacy to it. You know, when you think, oh well, we're separated, but actually with the Zoom, the online medium, there's a kind of unexpected intimacy, like this. You know, like our actual you know, face-to-face communication. And there's a connection there that is also kind of startling, you know, when you think, well, we're separated, but then when you reach for the connection, you actually do connect with people, and that's a really good exploration. Also, it's just learning. It's like learning in a different way. Um, I remember thinking right when this started, I thought, okay, this needs to be a period of study as well as trying to figure out how can I practice with my body so that we'll learn more during this time. So I've really been studying a lot and offering a lot in the online classes, actually information about Aikido too. So we're learning with our minds as well as other ways. And I've just been trying to explore everything I can about different ways of training online, you know, different ways of using the bokken and different ways of using the medium. We're doing some paired practice together. It's quite a rich exploration. And the people who are doing it, I think, are getting a lot out of it.
And I want to add one, if you're
Yeah.
finished.
Yeah.
So I want to add one thing I thought about when you talk now, Linda Sensei. Also, I look at the the news and all the information we get now, some of it is quite difficult. It's an attack to our psyche, and we have to do Aikido with that. So I don't want to disconnect from the world, but I don't want the world to overwhelm me. So I try to stay connected to the world and what's happening, but I also try to keep my mind calm, you know, to keep my center, to keep my axis, and to clear my mind. So I want to hear what's going on, but it's a constant training to stay in your center and to keep a calm mind while receiving all the information that is around now. So I think that is a way to do Aikido with the world. With all the news and all the information, they are somehow attacking our psyche, and we have to deal with that. We cannot shut it off. We have to deal with it and stay in our center to receive it.
Absolutely. I've also been really impressed by the just the the basic kind of stress reduction aspect of Aikido practice. All the aspects of Aikido practice help to, just to use very common terms, actually to relieve and reduce the amount of stress that we feel, and that allows us to, you know, to live well. Penny Sensei, is there one more person perhaps who could ask a question?
Yeah, there's three, but in the order that they raise their hands, the next person would be Lori Talcott.
Hi, Linda. Hi, Jan. I think I'm unmuted now. Thank you so much. This is just really wonderful to hear both of you. And I had a question as you know, people are, as Aikido is moving around the world and people are moving to different places and spreading Aikido, I would love to hear you speak a little bit about your experiences when you came back from Japan, starting your dojos at the beginning, and what sort of the personal challenges of that, and what just what that was like for you, that you could share with other people who may be moving to new places and considering starting to start dojos.
To say something short, I was depressed for 1 year. It was very difficult to come back. I'm sorry to say, but that's the truth.
What was depressing you, Yan Sensei?
I mean, to be in that energy and train every day with all those people and share that feeling, and then coming back to Sweden, it was not the same. I mean, of course there was Aikido here, but it wasn't the same feeling, and it was very difficult. But you know, what I turned is, okay, what do you do? Either you go back to Japan or you start to create something where you are, you know, and slowly build up something. And you need to have a long time vision for that. I mean, we all know it's not a quick thing to build a dojo, you know. So it takes years and years and years. So I had this long-term vision and kept working. But to be honest, it was quite difficult. I mean, I don't know about you, Linda Sensei, but.
Well, I'm remembering, you know, I was in Japan several years, but it was in kind of two parts. And I came back after the first part because I ran out of money. And it was 1974 when I first came back from Japan, and I took a year. I had a year in the United States where I was trying to get some money together so I could go back to Japan. But at that time, it was really early in the history of Aikido in the United States, and so there weren't so many dojos. I mean, there were few dojos, and where I was actually, for a while, I was in Connecticut, and there was one dojo like a long ways away, and so I would go there once in a while, but most of the time I was just on my own. And so I actually, when this coronavirus shutdown started happening, it reminded me of that time where I didn't have a dojo available to me. But from the inspiring practice that I had experienced in Japan, I had the sense of, well, I need to figure out how to practice because I don't have a dojo here. I don't have the people with me. And so I developed this whole routine that I did every single day of training, not because I had to, but because I wanted to, because it refreshed me and helped me connect and purify my spirit. You know, I practiced on my own. I did bow practice and bokken practice and Nordito practice and, you know, everything. Um, and then when I came back the next time in 1976, there were some dojos. I mean, there were more dojos, and I was in California, and then I started teaching there. And so, actually, I'm not sure I felt depressed. I think I felt challenged at that time, but I also felt quite supported by the people who were there in Santa Cruz at the time, and also my friend Jack Wada, who had also had the Japanese training and in Shingu, and he had been teaching in Santa Cruz, and he turned the dojo over to me. So that's how I started, and so it was a little easier, I think, at that time. So, but to have the support from people, you know, that was really, really useful. And it's always super important, isn't it, in dojos to just have that sense of support and people working together. But anyway, there have been many challenges over the years, but it's been a creative challenge, and we've both persisted and continued to persevere. And it's so wonderful to have this sense of camaraderie with you and with other people who are so committed to Aikido practice, even when things are difficult. You know, that the practice gives us so much, and that Aikido practice deserves this kind of support and sharing. And I'm looking at the clock, and I'm seeing that it's actually 11:30. I knew that the time would go quickly, but in fact it has. I'm so I'd like to just spend the next couple minutes just bringing this to a close for today. Yan Sensei, I want to just thank you so much for being here today and for just being there ongoingly. Your presence in my Aikido life is extremely important, and I'm grateful for it. Thank you so much. And
Thank you, Linda Sensei.
I also wanted to mention, hopefully everybody knows, but Yan Sensei and Mary Heine Sensei and I are going to be collaborating and working together in less than 2 weeks, doing the Santa Cruz Aikido Summer Retreat, July 11th and 12th. And we would love to have any and all of you join us for that. It's going to be a kind of a full day on Saturday and then a kind of a partial day on Sunday. We figure that's the length of intensive that we can do at this point in this medium. And yeah, and so there are, it's easy to sign up for it. There's information on my dojo website. So aikidosantacruz.org. Please look at the information and join in. I want to say that, especially given the circumstances that many people are dealing with economically, we are being just as inclusive as possible. If you have financial difficulties, please just apply for a scholarship. We want to include everyone. So I just want to be encouraging about that. And also I want to say, Yan Sensei is, could you say something about the classes you are teaching that are actually in the sister arts of, you know, Qigong and so on? Would you like to let people know about those classes?
Just quickly, I'm teaching since 2 months now online Qigong form Xing Sheng Shuang. It comes from Manchuria. And I learned it maybe 25 years ago. And I'm teaching it online, and it's like 1 hour each time with a little preparation before and then something after. But we do the form maybe 30 minutes. And if you're interested, just send me an email and I can send you information about it. And we also have a flexible paying. So if you have economical difficulties, you can pay less, of course. But so my email is jan at jan@nevelius.se, SE for Sweden. So jan@nevelius.se. So just send me an email, I can give you more information. Thank you.
Wonderful. And then you'll see Jan at the summer retreat also, July 11th and 12th. So thank you for coming, and we're going to end with the bell.